Some people flex their Lamborghinis, their nice house. I flex my book collection. Today we're going over the top 10 ideas from 157 books. It's Clark with Refusing to Settle. Let's go. Refusers, welcome back to the channel where we help millennial entrepreneurs make passive income, refuse a 9-to-5, and earn your freedom. Now, as this year comes to an end, so sad. I had a good year. I hope you did as well. I thought it'd be fun to look back on the past couple years in our 10 Best Ideas series. Now, this channel wouldn't be what it is without this series. It brought a lot of you here. It's how you found out about Refusing to Settle, and it has a special place in my heart. Put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into them. So here are the 10 biggest points, the 10 best points from all those books in a nice little compilation for you. Now, a couple things before we launch into this end of the year special. Two things actually. First is I'll have all the resources linked in the description, as well as where you can get some of these books down below. The second is that if you want any of these books for free, get the Audible version in the description below. You get a free audiobook with your trial using our affiliate link in the description below. Thanks again for watching this series. I hope this video is a treat, or that you can put it on, relax, and get some good ideas out of this. So without further ado, here are the 10 best ideas from 157 books.
The first profile is Derek Sivers. This man sold CD Baby, the online music store or distribution company, whatever you label it, for over $22 million. But one of the best things he said, the quotable that really just I laughed my ass off when I heard it, is if information were the answer, we'd all be billionaires walking around with six-pack abs. Love that. Basically saying like, look, it's not enough to just read. It's not enough to know. We have to do. He also gives a story that I absolutely love. Don't be a donkey. The hell does that mean? The donkey is standing in between a bucket of hay and a bucket of water. He keeps looking left and right. Hay, water, hay, water. Not knowing which one to go for, he ends up dying of thirst and starvation right there in the middle. Because the donkey didn't realize that if he went to the water and drank, he'd have enough time, plenty of time, lifetimes, to go back to the hay and eat. So he got overwhelmed and just stood there because he couldn't make up his mind. He didn't see that he could do one and then the other. We can't be that donkey. You know, oftentimes we give ourselves false choices. We say, should I go to college or not? And we don't realize that we have time to do both. You do have time to go to college and then pursue entrepreneurship or traveling or whatever. I did the exact same thing. Or we say, should I quit my job or become an entrepreneur? Let's keep going with this. We don't realize that you can do both. You don't be the donkey in the middle choosing between A and B. You can start a job part-time and do entrepreneurship part-time. And sometimes that's the most successful way because you have steady income coming in and you're also pursuing your passion and you're more driven because you go to work every day thinking, I don't want to do this forever. And so that's a great way. And you don't go crazy because you have all this time and nothing's catching on. This false choice between should I do A or B, try and see the middle path. Try and say, why not both? And stop giving yourself false choices. Love that story. Begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey has the exercise called the funeral exercise. Sounds morbid. I promise it is very beneficial and actually positive. Picture this. You're walking into a church or cathedral and you see everyone dressed in black. You realize it's a funeral. And so you walk up to the front row and you look at people around you and you know all these different people. You start to scratch your head and say, what's going on here? So you walk up to the casket, you look in and you realize it's your funeral. That's a shock. So you look at the brochure that you were handed and you see that there are 4 speakers at your funeral. There's someone from your family, there's someone from your work, there's someone from your friends, and there's someone from your community. Now, the exercise he gives with beginning with the end in mind, what do you want those 4 people to say about you at your funeral? Basically saying that, look, if you were gone today, what do you want your life to say about you? Well, it's a good idea to begin with that in mind and start acting like you want your life to be one day today. So, for example, if you want your kids to get up there and say he was the best father, he always made time for me, or he played catch with me every Sunday, or he was a great husband, if that's your wife or whomever, you got to start acting like that today, otherwise it's not going to happen. Likewise, if you want your coworker to get up there and say he was the hardest working person at the office, or he always had a sense of direction, well, we can do that today and begin with the end in mind. So what do you want your life to look like 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, 30 years down the road? And if you start today implementing some of those things, like you want to be a fit person, for example, in 15 years you want to be there for your kids. Well, if you eat Cheetos and Pop-Tarts, you're not going to be that fit person. But if you exercise, do your kale salads, do your smoothies, your protein shakes, what have you, that's going to get you to where you want to be because you have the end in mind.
Macro versus micro. So I was out drinking with my friends one night and my girlfriend, and this one guy, I'll never forget it, he sits down at our booth and joins our table. And he slams his drink down and he's super belligerent and crazy, and he just said one thing. He's like, guys, I got it. These minutes we're spending right now turn into days, and the days turn into weeks, and the weeks turn into months. Months, years, decades, and that's your life. And he finishes his drink, gets up, and walks away. Now, I've never had the combo of Jack Daniels and such prolific advice hand in hand, so there's a first time for everything. I hate to admit it stuck with me. It's that these day-to-day decisions that we don't think much of influence us on the big picture. That what you're doing right now watching this video is your life. That's where it is. And where I was going with this is in the book, Gary Vaynerchuk comes on and he gives macro versus micro. That he says, look, everyone's worried about what do they do in the next 20 years of their life. What am I going to do when I'm 40? What am I going to do when I'm 50? Is my life going to be on track? Will I have accomplished all this stuff? And we can kind of that term mental masturbation, where we take in all these ideas, all these books, all this knowledge, and we just consume, but we don't act. And he says, look, let's flip that. Who cares what you're doing in 20 years from now? Focus on what you're doing right now, the day to day. And if we analyzed it, I can guarantee that you're watching 4 hours of Netflix every night and checking your Instagram feed 20 times a day. That's the micro that's gonna make up the macro. Or as the drunk guy put it, those are the days, the weeks that are gonna make up the years, the decades. Gary also says that I'm not even worried about the macro because I'm squeezing every single second out of these seconds. I know that when that macro hits, if I keep squeezing the micro, it's gonna all fall into place. Yes, you do have to plan for the big picture stuff. You can write visions for your life. You can set goals that are 5 years out, but you have to focus on the micro execution and the macro picture.
This is the idea of polarity. I read this book when I was 18, and this one concept really opened my eyes to a viewpoint of the world that has stuck with me ever since. And that is the concept of polarity. If you look at everything, there's night and day. There's hot and cold, there's east and west, there's up and down, north, south, fill in the blank. Well, there's masculine and feminine, and these are two energies at play. And just like you have a positive side of a magnet and a negative side of the magnet, they attract each other together. And the more charged they are, the stronger the attraction is. Now, masculine and feminine energy does not mean male and female. You can have a very feminine male attracted to a very masculine female. You see that a lot. Or vice versa, you can have a very masculine man to a very feminine woman. But whatever the opposite is, you will be attracted to based on how strong their charge is. And this is really great stuff because once we identify that, look, it's two halves that make up a whole oftentimes, with polarities in life all around us, with polarities inside of a relationship, we can start learning from the other person and their perspective. For example, if you're in a relationship, I'm a pretty, I'd say balanced man in terms of energies on polarity scale. But if you're like me, you don't often have that extreme feminine side viewpoint. So I'm in a relationship like with my current girlfriend, she's able to see things way more clearer or differently than I am from my very logical left-sided brain. It's just really cool to have two different viewpoints together that can broaden your perspective. So this book's all about using those polarities, that north-south, male-female, hot-cold, night-day, the two halves that make up a whole, and growing more together in a relationship and bringing out that side of your partner and growing more together than you could alone. Because at the end of the day, if you can grow more alone than with the person you're with, you shouldn't be in that relationship, first off. And then second, there's no point to it. What's the point of being in a relationship if you can't grow together? So that's what this book's about, is dancing with that polarity, dancing with the tension of the masculine energy and the feminine energy, which sometimes operate in completely different ways. Not right or wrong, just as different as night and day. And how do we dance with that? How do we understand it better? So ultimately, we can grow more together. This profile is on Wim Hof, the Iceman. Awesome guy. He holds over 20 world records, mostly pertaining to ice and cold exposure. He climbed Mount Everest past the death zone where, I don't know what the percentage is off the top of my head of people die. You know what he did it in? He didn't do it in the Canada Goose jackets or the oxygen tanks or, what most people go up on of like North Face just decked out head to toe insulation. He did it in just shorts. Actually, I had the pleasure of interviewing Wim. So I was doing my research and looking at his world records, and he had one for an ice bath. I think it was 1 hour and 58 minutes was his time. I asked him, I said, Wim, why didn't you just do 2 hours? That would have been way better. His response was, so I can do it for 1 hour and 59 next time and break the record, and then 2 hours and break the record. He knew he had it in the bag, so he just wanted to one-up it by a minute every time. It's kind of a publicity, good strategy, Wim. Anyway, he went over the breathwork strategy he does to get himself in state for doing deep dive underwater below dozens of feet of ice or summiting Mount Everest. He teaches people how to do his strategies and uses methods. So here's a clip of him doing the actual breathwork with me, and you can do it along if you want to in this video.
Just do it. Just do it, Clark. We do it for 1 minute, and then you will be able to stay without air in the lungs for 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to time it.
All right.
I'm going to time it here.
All right, follow along at home.
Yes. Yeah, just follow it at home and copy Clark.
Okay. All right.
I got a stopwatch here.
Okay.
I'm going to show you the principle. Okay, there we go, man.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ready?
Yeah.
Relax. Okay, good. Deeply in. Once again, deeply in. Letting go. Deeply in. Letting go. And deeply in. Letting go. Keep on doing this. Keep on doing this. You become lightheaded. Loosen the body. That's okay. That's the oxygen beginning to roam freely throughout the body. Keep on, keep on. Deeply in. I'm just explaining to people at home what happens. The carbon dioxide goes out now. Oxygen begins to roam freely throughout the body. pH levels go up. And when the pH levels go up, then you don't need to breathe anymore. And we will show it. We will show a piece of magical physiology. Just keep on. Last 10. Yes. Nice one. Deeply in and letting go. And letting go. And deeply in. Oh. And deeply in. Let it go. Yeah, lightheaded, loosen the body, tingling, all that. Oh. Whatever you feel, intensify that feeling. Physiology is paleophysiology. Get into it. 3 more. And deeply. Yes. Okay, last one. Letting go. I'm showing you. No breathing. Shut your mouth. and relax. Just relax. The oxygen in the body has risen, the pH levels, so you don't need to breathe. We show all the world that the magic of the physiology is happening, and it brings you right in the deeper parts of the brain. Right now, you feel like peace. This goes up to cell level. And relax. You don't need to think, just get into whatever you sense. Just be there. Just witness the physiology. Paleophysiology. Right on. So you passed 1 minute now. And still without air in the lungs. It's because the chemistry is right. 1:15 and still ongoing. Right on clock, 1:30. Those are reflexes, conditioned reflexes. 1:40. You're getting there. 45. Reflexes. 1:50. Almost 2 minutes. Right on. Good dude. Good man. Get him in. Get him in. Get him in. Stay in and hold. And now press a little bit toward the head. You feel great. Wow, man. Being in the brain, man. Right on. You see?
No ego, then we go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just listen to the inner nature and it's all going to happen.
Oh, my goodness. Woo.
It is.
That's amazing.
It is just oxygen, and oxygen bringing back the control of the right pH levels in the blood.
Wow.
And that things happen. Things happen in the depth of the brain and the body.
All right, refusers, we're halfway through. Those are the 5 ideas so far. Just a quick reminder, if you like this, leave a thumbs up, drop a subscribe if you're not already, and I'll have all the resources mentioned in the link below, as well as where you can get these books or book for free with a trial of Audible. This is what I use. It's one of the 4 apps on my phone because I use it so much at the bottom there. I do it when I'm out walking. I do it when I'm at the gym, when I'm commuting places. It's a cool way you can turn idle time into time where you're stimulating your mind, where you're learning. Readers are leaders. I love that saying. And the more you learn, the more you earn. So no matter what you want to learn, whether it's self-development, whether it's business, whether it's marketing, relationships, anything like that, there's books on it. And we cover them on this channel, but Audible is what I use. It's one of my favorite apps. And it just, again, I'm an auditory learner, so I learn best that way. So I'm able to take it on a walk, and instead of just sitting here reading for hours, which I get antsy, or I'll check my phone or go on Instagram and totally derail my reading session, I can remove the distractions, I can get exercise, fresh air, and I can take the book to go. And you can put it at 1.5 speed, all that good stuff. That's in the link below. Get your free book now. Figure out your epiphany. People don't care what you know until they know what you care. So you gotta know your story. You gotta know your epiphany. And Brendon Burchard said, that is the moment when you got to fill in the blank. And that is the moment blank. If you're going to be an expert, whether it's in the health field, the diet field, the self-growth field, whatever, the business field, you got to know that moment, because that's how we connect with each other, through stories, right? So you got to know yours down. And I was thinking about my epiphany story, and a lot of you on this channel, you know it, right? I graduated college, I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. I read all these books, I was applying stuff, and I was like, why doesn't this work? Within 1 month of graduating college, I had to move back into my mom's basement. I was $40K in debt. My long-term girlfriend broke up with me and basically handed me a book that said, how to get your shit together. Said, I was crazy for my entrepreneurial dreams, they were never gonna work. I got super depressed. I got super low. More than depressed, I was just frustrated because I was trying so many different businesses or things online or opportunities that we have around us, and nothing was working. I was like, is it me? Because I'm doing everything right. Bought a one-way ticket and I went to Southeast Asia to travel and backpack. I was obsessed with like designing that 4-hour work week style of living where it's lifestyle design. You know, you work when you want, as much as you want. I wasn't afraid of work. I just wanted something to invest in that would be bigger and bigger year and year after year, much like yourself watching this on this channel, right? I remember sitting at Angkor Wat. It was 4 a.m. I was at the sunrise, and that was the moment when I saw the sun come up, and it just hit me like that. Like, I saw the sun rising up, and it was like this untapped potential is like what it represented. This like giant endless ball of energy that was untapped that you could just tap into as long as you knew what it was, and it just brightened everything up. And I realized I had that within myself, that yeah, I was trying everything, but I still had all this untapped potential. And so that right then is when I started to refuse to settle. I refused to settle for a life that I wasn't proud of. I refused to settle for relationships that weren't fulfilling. I refused to settle for holding myself back and being my own critic in my head. Not to brag, but I've achieved pretty much every single thing I've wanted and more. You know, I have a 6-figure business now of where I help people, super cool people I get to interact with and help and serve them. I'm a pro drummer for one of my favorite bands growing up. I get to tour and play festivals for like 6 months out of the year. Everything's on the uptick with what I'm doing and how I want to grow. I get to travel to wherever I want to go on my off time, or work from wherever I want in the world. But all along the way, it was just refusing to settle and tapping into that untapped potential. So that is my epiphany story. And that was the moment when. The big takeaway there for you is figure out what your story is, because that's how you kind of story selling is the new thing in this year and next year and in years beyond, is we connect through stories.
To illustrate the next 2 points, I want to tell you a story that he talks about in this book. An Egyptian pharaoh summons his 2 young nephews, Chuma and Arzur, and he commissions them to a majestic task: build 2 monumental pyramids as a tribute to Egypt. Upon completion of each nephew's pyramid, Pharaoh promises immediate lavish retirement and all the riches they could want. Both Chuma and Arzur, who are 18, know that this is a huge task and will take pretty much a lifetime. Arzur gets to work straight away. He even gets a trainer because these rocks are so strong and he needs to stack them. He goes on stacking the foundation. In about a month, he's got a pretty good one going. But when you look at Chuma's pyramid, his land is empty. Arzur is leagues ahead of him. Confused, Arzur visits Chuma's house and finds him working on this big elaborate contraption that looks like a torture device. He says, "Chuma, what are you doing? Don't you know that our goal is to work on a pyramid?" Chuma responds with a smile and says, "I am working on my pyramid." Arzur continues to labor at his pyramid every single day, but the rocks get heavier and heavier as the foundation starts getting closer towards the top. He needs more muscle to lift them. So he hires a trainer and gets bigger muscles so he can lift more and more stones. Chuma, on the other hand, is still not to be seen. He's still in his house and his land is still barren. Then, one day, 20 years later, Chuma rolls this big machine out and starts picking up the rocks and laying them down. The machine's doing all the work for him. All he has to do is crank the lever and put the stone where he wants. Arzur, on the other hand, is still struggling, still training, still using manual labor to build his pyramid. And in a matter of 3 years, Chuma's pyramid is complete and he reaps the rewards for 20 years to come. Now he can relax. Now he can take time and go on the beach. Now he can surf the Mediterranean. Now he can do whatever he wants because his work is done and he now has the riches. Now I love that story. What that illustrates is that so many of us are trying to muscle our way. And this is the slow lane mentality that save 10% of everything you make for 40 years and you'll be rich, right? Get a job with good benefit. All this stuff over here. Go to school for 20 years, work for 40, and then retire for 20, the best years of your life. That's the slow lane mentality. The fast lane mentality is building contraptions to build your pyramid for you so you don't have to muscle your way there. These contraptions are businesses, passive income, assets,
things that put money in your pocket, that do the work for you. This is the fast lane, and that's what the book's about. How do you build these contraptions over here so that you don't have to muscle your way to success? It's not saying it's not going to be work. In fact, I think it's Abraham Lincoln has the quote along the lines of, if I had 7 hours to chop down the tree, I'd spend 6 of them sharpening the saw. Stephen Covey tells that story in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Pretty much similar morals there of one person going to work, chopping down a tree nonstop, and Abraham Lincoln's just sharpening his saw over here. But then, with the sharper saw, easier to cut down the tree. So for you, it's gonna require a lot of mental work to figure out that contraption device like Chumo was doing in his hut for 20 years. Then at the end, his pyramid almost built itself.
Your wealth tax. In the book, there's a story that's really moving. It's of a UPS worker. He never made over $14,000 to his name. A guy comes to him and says, I'm gonna make you rich. He said, what are you talking about? I work at UPS. I don't make over 14 grand. The guy said, that doesn't matter. What I'm gonna do from this day forward is I'm gonna put a wealth tax on you. It's 20%. The UPS worker wasn't too happy, but he adjusted. So he committed and saved 20% of every paycheck year after year. He put every bonus into his wealth tax year after year. Now this was hard, required sacrifice because he didn't make much. But by age 90, he retired. Do you know how much he retired with? Over $70 million. That is the true story of Paul Theodore Jones, illustrating that to really get rich, to be financially unshakable, well off, we need 2 things: discipline and time. A lot of people say, I can't invest because I don't have money. But what they don't realize is they don't have money because they're not investing. What you and I need to do right now is we need to commit to putting a wealth tax on us to make ourselves better in the future by setting systems in place today. The next point is EBSI. These are the 4 things that we can be in life. And I'll throw up a chart right here on EBSI. This stands for employee, business owner, self-employed, or investor. And these are the 4 possible paths for us. We can be a mix of all 4. So starting with employee, basically you have a job and you use your time to generate money. Business owner, you got some leverage there. You get people to work for you and they generate your cash. Self-employed, again, it's a job. You own a job. So you're still trading your time for money. And then investor, you own investments. Your money works for you. So Robert says that we should be in the B or the I class if we want to become wealthy. You don't have to be the next Bill Gates. You can invest in Bill Gates, all right? So finding ways to invest in like the stock market or index funds. Finding ways, if you want to be a business owner, maybe buy an existing business. How do you do that? Maybe saving up enough money to get a down payment on that. So I'm not going to go over those strategies in there, but those are the 4 possible things that we can be. And he basically says, look, if you want to become wealthy, you can't be an employee. And self-employed, you still have to trade your time for it, for the most part. So focus on being a business owner or an investor, and that's going to get you on the path to becoming wealthy.
Now let me tell you the next idea, and we'll put it right here. But first, I want to tell you a story about this guy. That's a little fish for you. It's Fishing for Happiness. And this story is so powerful, I actually folded it up. I tore it out of the 4-Hour Workweek book, and I folded it up and I carried it in my wallet with me. Actually, let me show you. It's in the very, very back right here. It's all ratty. You see that? It's survived a lot, survived many Southeast Asia trips. And why did I carry this? Because this story is so powerful. And it goes like this. The short version of the story is this. An American businessman took a vacation to a small coastal Mexican village upon doctor's orders. Unable to sleep from an urgent phone call the first morning, he went out to the pier to clear his head. A small boat with just one fisherman had docked. The American complimented the man on the quality of his fish. How long did it take you to catch this tuna? The American asked. Only a little while, the Mexican replied. Why don't you stay out longer and catch more fish? Said the American. I have enough to support my family. Give a few to my friends, the Mexican said, as he unloaded them into the basket. The American asked, but what do you do with the rest of your time? To which the Mexican replied, I sleep late, fish a little,
play with my children, take a siesta with my wife Julia, and stroll into the village each evening where I sip wine and play guitar with my amigos. I have a full and busy life, Senor. The American laughed and stood tall and said, "Sir, I am a Harvard MBA and can help you. You should spend more time fishing, and with the proceeds, buy a bigger boat. In no time, you'd have a whole fleet of fishing boats. You'd control processing, distribution, manufacturing. You make tons of money, way more than you're doing now. You'd have to leave this village, of course, and move to Mexico City, then LA, and finally New York, where you could grow your expanding enterprise with proper management." The Mexican fisherman looks up and asks, "But then what?" "That's the best part. When the time is right, you'll announce IPO. You'll sell your company and make millions. You will become very rich." "Millions. Then what, Senor?" To which the American replied, "Then you can move to a small Mexican coastal fishing village where you could sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take a siesta with your wife Julia, and stroll into town each morning where you could sip wine and play guitar with your amigos."
So do you see the irony there? That's why I love this story. What the doctors thought was freedom, the fisherman had all along. You know, sometimes we just work and we work and we work and we work trying to get somewhere like this holy grail one day so we can avoid it altogether, right? Sometimes that's why people in this channel, they say, "Oh, I want to make money so I don't have to work ever again." Well, they're trying to escape something. And the irony is that if you're working to escape something, chances are you're not going to be successful. The true passion comes down to when you can't wait to do this passion thing and finding a way to make an income with it. There you go, Refusers. Those are the 10 best ideas from 157 books. Thank you so much for watching and being on this channel and making the book summary series so successful. I hope that's not braggadocious to say, but you know, it's the thing that brought a lot of you here, and it's, well, a big reason why this channel got to where it was. So thank you for watching and supporting those. We'll have some more in the future. And yeah, just remember all the links are in the description below. If you want any of these books or you like these ideas, they're linked down there. Those are affiliate links, so they help support this channel as well. Thank you for an amazing year. I'll see you back here next year. And until then, stop settling, start living. See ya.